All right, let's dive right into a really big question today, one that comes from Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik's incredible work, The Halakhic Mind. And it's a question that, honestly, probably feels more relevant now than ever. In a world that's all about science, data, and proof, where does religious faith fit in? How can it still be a real, valid way of understanding the world around us?
And Soloveitchik really frames the entire debate with this one idea. Look, he's not anti-science, not at all. He's not trying to tear it down. The real issue for him is this: should the scientific way of looking at the world be the only way? Is it supposed to be exclusive, just pushing everything else off the table? That's the problem he's tackling head-on.
So, where does he start? Well, he basically puts his finger on this deep split, this crack right at the center of modern thinking. He says we're all kind of caught in the middle, torn between two completely different and, you'd think, contradictory ways of seeing the world.
So let's break that down. On one hand, you've got the scientific worldview, right? It's all about numbers, data, what you can measure. It takes reality and breaks it down into tiny, objective, atom-sized pieces. It's all about the parts. But then, on the other side, you have the religious experience, and that's, well, it's the total opposite. It's about quality, not quantity. It's personal, it's subjective. It doesn't see a bunch of separate pieces, it sees one big, continuous, interconnected whole. It's the reality you feel, right here, right now.
So you have these two opposing views. What do you do? And this is where Soloveitchik's genius really shines. He doesn't pick a team. He's not going to say, science is wrong, or faith is all you need. No way. Instead, he charts a completely new course. He basically says, hold on, maybe we need to rethink what we even mean by knowing something in the first place.
And the heart of his solution is this idea he calls metaphysical pluralism. Now that sounds heavy, but the core idea is pretty straightforward. It's not about saying, oh, every opinion is equally true or anything goes. It's much more sophisticated than that. He's arguing that different systems of thought, science, philosophy, religion, are like different tools. Each one can give you a valid, true piece of the puzzle, a real insight into what existence is all about. They just see it from different angles.
And what does that do? It gives us what he calls cognitive autonomy. It's basically the freedom to use all of these different lenses to look at the world. It's this incredibly powerful statement that says, yes, the scientific method is amazing for what it does, but it does not have a monopoly on truth. Religious thought, religious knowing, has its own integrity, its own way of being right.
Okay, so he's established this foundation. From there, he gets into something really fascinating. How does our own personal, subjective world, our inner life, connect with the big, objective, communal tradition of halakha? How does the me fit into the we? This is where the personal really meets the universal. And he really pushes back on the idea that science can explain everything. I mean, think about it. Science can give you the exact chemical formula for what's happening in your brain when you're in love. But can it tell you what it feels like to be in love? Of course not. Our inner world, that feeling of time passing, our search for meaning, our sense of purpose, that stuff requires a totally different language, a different way of knowing.
And this is a perfect example of the richness of the halakhic mind at work. Take a single phrase from the Rav. The consummation of the religious act always takes place in a non-personal world. Okay, on the surface, the pashat, the literal meaning, is that our religious acts aren't just for us. They fit into a bigger community. Simple enough. But then you dig deeper, into the remez and the darash, and suddenly this non-personal world becomes something much bigger, a metaphysical reality. Maybe it's the realm of the Shekinah, where God's presence lives, and every little thing we do has a ripple effect in that spiritual cosmos.
So, he's shown us that these different perspectives are all valid, but he doesn't just leave them sitting there in their separate boxes. This is where he brings it all home. He builds to this incredible climax, and what he offers is nothing less than a new vision for a truly whole, integrated human consciousness. And he really makes you stop and think, doesn't he? He asks this critical question: is pure reason, that cold, objective, logical brainpower, is that really enough? Can it actually grasp everything there is about being alive?
His answer is beautiful. It's this amazing idea he calls the reason of the heart. And let's be clear, this is not about throwing your brain out the window and just going with your feelings. It's a call to make our idea of reason bigger, to create a real fusion of our mind and our spirit.
And this really gets to the core of his whole vision. This reason of the heart is a way of knowing that weaves together our intellect with our deepest emotions and our will, our choices, our commitments. It's a kind of whole person knowledge.
It says that feelings and commitment aren't just nice little extras that you tack on to reason. No, they are absolutely essential parts of what it means to truly understand something.
So, let's step back. Why are we still talking about the Halakhic Mind? I mean, it's a pretty dense philosophical book. Why is it still so important today, not just in Jewish circles, but for anyone thinking about these big questions?
Well, his legacy is just huge, really. For one, he gives us this incredible framework, a bridge, for bringing faith and reason together without diminishing either one. He also fires a major warning shot against scientific reductionism, this idea that science has all the answers. He stands up for our inner, subjective lives, saying, hey, this stuff matters. It's a real form of knowledge. And in the end, what he's really fighting for is a fuller, more integrated, and frankly, a more human way of knowing the world.
And so we're left with a pretty challenging question for our own time. I mean, we live in a world that is obsessed with data, with algorithms, with quantifying and measuring every single thing. In a world like that, Soloveitchik's call feels more urgent than ever. So the question he leaves us with is this: how do we, right now, protect and build up this reason of the heart? That's the real work, and it's up to us to figure it out.